Jai Shri Krishna. It's again a great day, wonderful time to be together, especially for this purpose. Again, just to underscore Margashirsham on this time period, this duration, Krishna designates this is my form in the 10th and the 11th chapter, particularly in the 10th chapter, Vibhuti Yoga, in this very Gita, that very Krishna, this little boy, as he's showing in response to Arjun's question, where can I see you? How can I experience you? He says, I am this, in this I am that. He says, in the months, I am Margashir. This is that time period. Even within that, it's a Shukla Paksha. And within that, it's the 11th day. And this was the time, actually, literally when, I mean, not time, but this was the period when the Gita was spoken in Kurukshetra also. So you should cash in on that. Anything that helps to regulate our mind, to moderate our mind. I was sharing with Madhvi once that part of, when I look back, part of my journey has been marked with milestones, obviously, where fortunately, I, for the most part, never missed an opportunity like this one to tie yet another knot, or rather untie yet another knot. That okay, like in terms of the resolution, that now is a good time in my life. Now is a good day. Sort of starting a day or two prior to that, maybe even a week prior to that. So, this time is coming. And these are all mental games, right? We play the mental game with the mind itself. If that's how you want to be, then I can play that game. The mind starts to concoct ideas. We're going to go there and we're going to do this, and these people are going to come and we'll have that. So mind starts dreaming up and drumming up ideas. Well, that's what you like. Here's a taste of your own medicine also. While we do that, this is coming. This is my time. And we're going to do this then, starting that day, starting that time. You're going to climb one more rung of the ladder, if you will, right? And when I look back, it just naturally happened. And it surely has helped me without a doubt. And so just as my own personal experiment, I'd share that and would encourage you to not miss opportunities like these usual resolution times. Whether it's New Year, it's a birthday, it's something like a milestone birthday, maybe even a regular birthday, Janmashtami, Deepavali, Naya Saal, like whether our Naya Saal or not. And then Gita Jayanti obviously is a big one. So quite a lot of it is mind game, but if the mind has been tricking us for lifetimes and it has been working, right? The mind's games have been working. Well, the same mind's game can also work to undo it, and that's how I've reached it's someplace in my journey. So I would encourage that. I hope this is still recording, and one or two people are on it also. So we had left, we were in the 17th chapter last time when we were at Falguni Ben's place, Dushanbai. In between, a completely random thought I will share in terms of our relationship with Krishna. Since at the end of it all, including the Gita, it's about the personalizing the relationship, right? Even the memorization of the Gita and understanding all the Sanskrit and the grammar, being able to recite it forward and backward. There's many examples. So all of those is not it. Ultimately, it is about being able to live it every moment without having to think about it. And so spontaneously, so naturally that we become it, so much so that I don't even exist. It alone flows. The Gita flows, not me. Right? And that the more we are able to personalize it, the more we're able to immerse in it, the more we're able to imbibe it inside. The intimacy, it is the intimacy alone that will sort of give us the final mile, as it is called. You can travel great distances wherever we want to go. It's the final mile that really counts. If I cannot travel the final mile, then I cannot reach there. No matter how hard I worked and what I've done to get there, final mile matters. So the final mile, in my experience, in the spiritual journey, spiritual life, is the very deep personal intimacy with God, right? With Krishna in this case. And so, and I know at times I've said it, all this, pick a relationship that resonates, whether it's the Shantaras, that the great glorious Lord is there. I believe him. I trust him. I know he's there. I know he's my well-wisher. He's my well-doer. He's the perfect one. All this. He's Satchidanand and all that. And so I'm just going to sit here, be quiet, and just absorb in his glory. And many, many. Bahuna, bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha is a shlok that appears in the Gita, earlier in the Gita, which is the tapasvi loka. So many, Bahunam, countless, innumerable, Krishna says in the Gita, have crossed that and have situated and have established in my glory through the tap of Gyan. Tap is hard work, right? Literally translates into hard work. They've really studied up on me. They have audited me. They've checked me out. They've done this, that, and they're convinced that yes, I am. And they've established in it. Bahavo Jnana Tapasa. Puta is humans. Mad Bhavam Agata. And they've come unto me. Sort of the feeling of me. They know. And they stay there. The Rishi Munis. And that's fine. That's good. Then the next bhav is that of, for example, dasya bhav, that when someone becomes restless, that alone is not satiating me. I want to know more. I want to experience more. I want to be with. Then that's the feeling and the bhav, the dasya bhav is of servitude. That when you really adore someone, when you really admire someone, some luminary, some celebrity is coming to town or to our school or to our workplace, then we want to volunteer for that event. We want to do something. I want to hold the door. That way, when they pass by, I'll say, or I want to be the one garland, lighting the lamp or sweeping the floor so that we get to be around. We get to see how they walk, talk, all that. And so we innately bring out this attitude of service in it. And so in it is already included the Shanta Bhav, all the knowledge about God is already included. It's taking it a step further. It is not inferior to Dasya. Cumulatively, it is superior. It's saying yes and, right? Beyond, essentially going there. That I want to do something. I'm restless without for all that. And so examples that are given are like that of Hanuman, that he knew very well, full glory of Ram, very well. And there is a conversation in Ramayana between Ram and Hanuman about, who do you think I am? Ram says, who are you? Who do you think I am? And it's that conversation in which Hanuman fully unpacks his own identity, Ram's identity, and just takes it different rungs and layers, ultimately sharing with Ram that I know that you are me and I am you, that there is no difference. And yet I find more joy in distancing, in the separation, because then I can serve you. And so that's the Dasya Bhav. And so in that come all the puja and the worship and all of that. Pushti Marg, by the way, I did not come at all thinking of that. I will share this. I just put up with me, was just inspired in today's Dhyan to share, sort of bring that out again as we close out this year, right? To the intimacy aspect of it. From there on, when even that is not enough, then becomes the Sakhya Bhav, that of friendship. Service is fine, but it's even more close when you and I can sit on the same sofa, when we can eat from the same plate, and I can put my arm around your shoulder. Hey, buddy, how are you? Right? When we can eat each other's food. Oh, when you wear my clothes, I wear yours. It doesn't matter. You're standing and I'm sitting, because I'm gotten so close that sort of the feeling of respect is fading, because it's being overpowered by the feeling of intimacy. That's how love progresses. Any love progresses. The first date was not that intimate. And there's distance and sitting across the table and like watching all the manners and the etiquettes and whether you use the straw or not, this, that. And then slowly as the intimacy grows, you're using the same straw. Or forget the straw, you're using the same glass, right? So that is how love progresses. That is how intimacy grows. That is how oneness. This is very real. Ultimately, we're trying to become one. This is how oneness grows. First there were two, now it's slowly becoming one. And so in friendship then is even thus Sakhya Bhav is even further. And the next rang is Vatsalya Bhav, when the parental affection, not just eating or giving my food to you, but slapping, smacking the kid, right? Tying him up or down and say, no, you will not. Right? Thou shalt, Bhagavan right? Jesus says, thou shalt. Here, Yashoda said, no, thou shalt. Or better, Bhagavan ko keh rahe, thou shalt. वो खल से बांध के हिलना नहीं यहाँ से करके, and all kinds of orders are given. Sit down and कान पकड़ and ये कर वो कर सब, because what God? Well, like, of course he's mine. It's completely taken for granted. Completely assumed he's mine. And no, you cannot spoil him. You cannot give him. You cannot feed him. Why? Because he's mine and I'm his. There's complete ownership of it. And so in that sense, in the sense of the personal relationship, it's considered higher. And then the highest, that is considered Madhurya Ras, which is like pure love, conjugal love, like a husband and wife, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and two lovers, like Radha, Krishna, Gopika, and others. That even that I and you is forgotten. The intimacy has grown so close that what are we talking about, you and me? I am your mother and you're my son. In it still, and so it's a very interesting trajectory, Sanjeev Bhai. I know you'll resonate with it through the way you pointed this out the last time when we spoke. We're reaching Advait in a very glorious, beautiful, grand, loving way, not in the dry, rough, maybe not way, Advait, right? And so it's fully, but it's completely embracing Advait, in which, as I embraced you, I realized that I do not exist, only you do. And so there is only one. No? So we reach Advait through Dvait, but that is so one that there's no possibility of two. So for through any of the entire spectrum that I shared, the one common thread is a relationship, and that the relationship that grows in intimacy. And for it, what's needed is personalization, personal God. In the 12th chapter, as we haven't, we'll get to it. Well, so in English, I'm not sure, I don't remember if we did the 12th chapter. I don't think we did. In Hindi, we did. The beginning of the 12th chapter, Arjun directly asks, which one is superior? The one who goes through this dry, Advait, Nirgun, Nirakar path, or the one who worships you through Sagun Sakar path? Clear question and a clear answer he gives. Well, both are fine, both reach me, but clearly superior because it's easier and sweeter and glorious and enjoyable is the Sagun Sakaru, because you're then, there's no way to get lost because you're keeping me with you every step of the way together. Sagun Sakara, because you form a relationship. Now it's become my responsibility. He said, the child holding the father's hand versus the father holding the child's hand. The father holding the child's hand becoming or rather walking together, if you want to think of it that way, going to school, or holding hands together. In both examples, the father and the child are walking to elementary school together. In one, they're walking together, but not holding each other's hand. And the other one, they are holding hands. So if the child stumbles, in the first example, the child will fall and hurt. In the other one, there's good chance that the father will catch before it fully falls and hurts, right? And so that's the glory of the relationship. In both examples, they're walking together. They're starting at the same place. They're going to the same place. They are the same people. They're taking the same path. And the objective is the same, but the experience is different. And the chances of success are greater in one over the other. So form a relationship. Pick a name of Krishna in this case. Pick a form that resonates and give it a shot, try it. So Sudama did, Arjun did, Uddhav did. 3 very different examples. Generally taken as, yeah, devotees of the Lord, very, very different behavioral pattern between those 3. The common is that all 3 of them made him theirs. Sudama was just steeped pure in love, like just complete surrender in the sense of surrender. That Krishna is there, I know him, I love him, I don't need anything else. I don't want anything, I actually don't need anything else. So it's just that super reliance on Krishna, not necessarily going through the path of knowledge or wanting to know or seeking advice, nothing, taking nothing. The Sudama, like he's there and I rely on him and whatever will be. Arjun, very different, no knowledge of Krishna or his glory, even when the Gita is being spoken. So like, whoa, later on he said like, hey, he said like, I'm gonna ask for your forgiveness. I had no idea, no clue.
One thing, just going backward, the highest relationship. We're speaking with Shri in our time, make sure that liberation is available to men and women, right? I mean, we had that discussion because that came up in one of our lecture at philosophy conference. It was more pertaining to Jainism, but in ours, it is available to everyone. In fact, the highest vow you said, that's
necessitates that it be the opposite gender, almost the highest.
Yes, right? And then Vatsalya vow also, mainly Yashoda more than.
Great thought.
And even Sakhya vow, right? That's also like Draupadi, she saw him as a friend.
Yeah.
And I would say Meera, I don't know if she saw Krishna maybe as a husband or a friend.
Yeah, she wanted. It
Or
was
as a
more
husband.
like, yeah, it was really intimate.
Yeah. Wonderful thought. I love it. That,
So I mean, like we've given such a high position, right?
Yeah.
In that female's relationship.
yeah. That's a very good thought, Sanjeev Bhai. And frankly, to add to it, I would struggle with the Madhurya vow with Krishna, right? As a man. But where I find my absolute phenomenal joy is in somewhere between this combination that I was just talking about, like how Sudama felt about Krishna, how Arjun felt about Krishna, and how Uddhav felt about Krishna, particularly these 3, because there are 3 very distinct features that they brought. And I tend to resonate with one more than the other 2. And I feel very, very satiated in that relationship. Ultimately, it's about that satiation in the relationship, right? So as I was saying, Arjun was not reliant, was not sharan, was not surrendered or any of that. But you know what the great glory of that relationship? He was a trusted advisor. He always thought of Krishna and made him his trusted advisor. In the beginning of the Gita, he's on his knees, like, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapanam. Karpanidisha, I'm afraid. A mighty warrior like Arjun would never admit to anyone on his dead body that I'm afraid, that I'm scared, that I don't know what to do or confused. And he knew everybody was looking to him behind him. And for him to turn around and say, I'm confused, I actually don't know, I want to run away from this place. He'd never do that. He'd be found dead. But to Krishna, he says, I'm all this. And so for him, he was a trusted advisor. He would take his word for it and just do it. And he did. Karishye vachanam tava were the last words of Arjun in the Gita, that I'll do what you say. I don't need to think. You're my trusted advisor. You're telling me this, and I'm here I come. I picks up his bow and arrow. And so I find a lot of connection between my relationship with Krishna as my trusted advisor. Sudama had no place for trusted advice. He didn't even want any advice. He had no question for Krishna. He said, well, whatever, you can be in Dwarka. I can be here in Vrindapuri. And I know you're there, I'm here, and that's good enough. Just, I love you, I know you love me, and that's fine. I'm seeking no advice. I have no question. You are my answer to every question. Uddhav was neither a reliant, surrendered soul like this. Again, my interpretation of those characters after studying those, like Sudama, nor considered Krishna as his trusted advisor, but he had full knowledge of Krishna's glory from childhood. Uddhav was absolutely very aware, as the scriptures assert, of who Krishna was and his, but he was just limited to his like formless Brahma aspect of it that he knew since 5 years of age. Uddhav would tell his parents that he is God and he would not eat without worshiping Krishna. All along, he would just revere. So the feeling, there was that predominantly was of reverence, that I revere this cousin of mine, that he's God. And I was going to associate with him as a reverential feeling. So one is revering Krishna. One is we're using him as a trusted advisor. The other is surrendered in love. And so ultimately, Krishna took Arjuna to where Sudama was, like a last advice is aham tva sarva papebhyo sharanam kata, right? And he also took Uddhav to that path. He sent him smilingly to learn from those who wouldn't, the illiterate, thoroughly illiterate gopikas who would not know how to hold a book to read, for example, whose language was just like hodgepodge, not know how to properly speak. He sent Uddhav, the most learned of that clan, for whom Krishna has never held anyone in higher regard than Uddhav, consistently. Not Sudama, not Rukmini, not Satyabhama, not Draupadi, not Arjuna. No, he said Uddhav is as if me, he would say repeatedly, because he was so learned, so thorough, so gentlemanly, so perfect in every regard, and yet he was missing a big, again, gaping hole, that of loving intimately. And he sent him to the unimaginable gopikas in Uddhav's mind, like, what can I possibly learn from them? Why are you sending me there? And when he came back, smearing the dust of their feet all over his body, unstoppably crying, like, my God, how was I missing this? The power of love, right? The predominance of the power of love over knowledge or whatever else. And so he also took Uddhav to that place, that of love, and brought all three of them in his own way. So, and there are many other examples, like Balaram, how he taught through Hanuman, and Bhima, how he taught through Hanuman's example. Every one of them, his favorite devotees, ultimately brought to the point of surrendering, as in aligning with, right? So, like, go with the system. This is for your well-being. It is a perfected system in which I've kept you. You could not improve upon it the way I have kept you. There could not be a better way. But you have to accept it. You have to adopt it. You have to align with it. And that's the feeling of surrender, not that of falling knees and rubbing your nose in there. So I have found, and I'll stop this part, we'll do at least one or two shlokas of today's chapter. I'll invite your reactions first, is nothing helps like making a personal relationship. Pick any place. Start somewhere, wherever you can, and then run with it and see where it takes you, right? So let me pause here for a moment. I think Falguni Bhen is on the, the other person dropped, I think. Maybe
It
internet.
was just me because I
Yeah.
was having some audio trouble. So I logged out of another thing.
Yeah,
and
no, there was one other person originally.
Oh, okay.
But Falguni Behen, I invite you to share your reactions and then here as well, and then we'll do one or two shlokas. So we're changing the model a little bit, intermittent.
So, like I just wrote that in the examples that you're sharing about all three of them, I started thinking that like how everything boils down to bhakti yoga, and that complete surrender. So as much as I still, like how you said, I totally agree that for me too, like Krishna is a trusted advisor. Like I'll open up the Gita once in a way to when I feel like I'm stuck and I cannot think beyond, or when I have questions, I'll just, in front of my Bal Gopal, I'll just sit and say, I just can't think. Can you please guide me? Like, how do I come out of it? And whatever you have it in store for me, can you please give me the strength, or like sadbuddhi dena ki? I understand that even though I do not agree with this is kind of for my good, or the best possible option in all the circumstances that I am in right now surrounding me. Like, but then when I do that, I feel like how you talk about Sudama, right? That again, even though I think he is my trusted advisor, but at the same time, that, okay, I leave it up to you, you know, like tu hai to aur kya zarurat hai, like, so we still come down to that devotional love more than anything else. I guess the essence, I would still say that among all three of them, the essence would be like, I would still be like the surrender, you know, the complete surrender, and that even though I think he is my guide, I mean, I do go to him for everything, but I guess it boils down still to that love and that surrender, that bhakti yoga, I guess.
Yes.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I do think it's the right way to look at it. Ultimately, with our kids, with our parents, with our spouses, isn't love ultimately that we end up with?
Yes.
Finally, right? Like,
I feel like all reasonings just drop when there is a curtain of love.
it's acceptance. Then when there's love, there's total acceptance.
Yes.
Oh, good. Thanks for sharing. Shalini, I want to invite you. What thoughts?
Yeah, so I've always just thought about like relationship with God as two different things, like a personal relationship and like one of like reverence that you were talking about. But I never like, you know, thought of these examples of like Arjun and Sudama and you know, yeah, like I actually didn't know about him. Yeah, but until now, which is cool. But
It was his cousin brother, older than Krishna. Arjun was younger.
Okay.
So just real quick, Uddhav was from Krishna's father's side.
Okay.
And Arjun was from Kunti, like meaning Bua versus Chacha, right? Like that sort of, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just never like compartmentalize like the personal relationship into different like types of personal relationships. So I thought it was like really interesting how you broke that down like that way, like you know, Mira's relationship, for example, like Mirabai's relationship was like more intimate and kind of like sacrificing herself for him. And then like you were saying, like Arjun is more like a trusted advisor. So I think it's like it's easier to kind of process like what kind of relationship you want to have with God once you realize that you can have these different kinds of relationships with God. So yeah, that's kind of what I did from that.
Mission accomplished. I know, Madhvi, I know you agree with what Shalini shared. If you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's beautiful, Shalini. I'm so happy for you. Like to now that adventure, the next adventure is to figure out where it is. Right? Yeah. I think that one thing that I had also realized probably about a week or two ago is that I thought, why do we have to, you want to get to that ultimate, right? Like a relationship, right? But one thing I realized was that it will be in different moods at different times. Kind of like what you just said, you hadn't shared that with me. There's 3 different kind of characters who, I know we talked about it many times.
And all 3 are so intimate with Krishna, right?
In different capacities. Like sometimes the mood is of mothering Krishna, or sometimes the mood is of friendship, or I think I have in my mind less formality with him. I do feel an intimacy like that conjugal type of intimacy with him. I think that it's beautiful because it uplifts women in a different way, a woman's heart, because otherwise there are different sects and so forth that, kind of limit the capacity of a woman to achieve God, right?
That's what he was saying.
And I don't think that that's right, because in that same scene that we look in the Bhagwat, right, that actually Krishna reveals to Uddhava after he comes back that there are actually Param Gyanis that decided to be female because they knew that in order to reach that level of intimacy with God, that you cannot in a male form because of just the level of vairagya that is within.
And the design,
right?
just like how
Just the
personally I
design.
said, I find it challenging for me. Right?
Yeah, yeah. And there's a discussion in the Bhagavad also between Devaki and Vasudev, and he's like, you only know what you're doing. Like, when she's taking a blanket and she's fully seeing Krishna in the blanket in the prison, and Krishna is actually there, but Vasudev can't see him at all.
He sees the blanket.
He sees the blanket. He's like, you're going nuts. And she's like, no, you're missing it. He's here. He's 100%.
How do you not see him?
Yeah, he's like, "Wait." And he's like, no. And then he finally concludes in wisdom. He says, only a mother's love. You are probably experiencing that in this moment. But it's me with my vriksha heart, that I can't experience him. It's my loss in this moment that I can't experience him.
I didn't know about that.
It's so beautiful. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah. So to me, I'm like, that he holds space for women, right? Like, even though there are different sort of scriptures that say different things, for me, the Gita is the highest, along with Bhagwat, right? Right near it. So I think that it's really beautiful that women are uplifted, that there's this tremendous opportunity. And also then the flip side is we can make every relationship as a woman a potential to a stepping place to reach God through every interaction, through your mother, through your father, through your husband, through your children. It's all him. It's much easier for us to climb that ladder of love.
This is the truth. Actually is easier.
If you're able to function, like that's the only thing.
And even as a shishya, so even in knowledge, or karma yoga and all of those as well.
Yeah, and he has a soft spot too, which is
Yeah. No,
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead. Puriven?
I think just like Madhvi Ben said, it's the ability or the knowledge of knowing that, how you beautifully put, how you can personalize, even within the personal relationship, how you can personalize. And I feel like, how you said that, read that final mile,
The last mile.
is the most loaded mile because, you're trying to reach your destination. And I feel like that's where the trust comes in, that, if I give up, I know where my destination is, where I'm trying to go. God will take me because he knows I'm coming to him, or whatever your destination is in the real world, whatever we're trying to do, to have that trust will take you there. As far as, when you are stuck in a situation where you don't know what to do, you've thought through it, that's where the surrender relationship comes in, as to, okay, I give up, I just surrender to you. So I think in different situations, having that kind of knowledge that these relationships can be there, it helps you kind of process through those moments better.
Yeah, and you can switch too. He doesn't say you can only have one. Then he never said that.
I think that was really nice to know.
Yeah,
that was good.
and there are examples like that for people switching, like code switching, sort of like Draupadi, for example. Go ahead.
And wouldn't that, like how you said, personalize him? So wouldn't all these paths lead to personalizing him, making that making that soul connection basically with him.
Yeah.
I guess.
Exactly.
Just one thing that I want to add is again about the knowledge, right? So Dwight, they believe that the main issue is ignorance, and the only way out of ignorance is knowledge. If you gain enough knowledge, you're going to remove ignorance. So, but in Dwight philosophy that we're talking about, you can be attracted to that path of also knowledge, but you kind of know that knowledge by itself, you're not going to reach it. You're using knowledge because that resonates with you, and that's your relationship. At least I see that also as sort of a bhakti, right? Because it's not knowledge just for the sake of knowledge, because knowledge is not, it's not going to be 100%. But
Yeah.
So there is that difference between Advait and Dwight. They both follow the path of knowledge, but in Dwight philosophy, it's not just for the sake of knowledge, although you might be following. I don't know if it makes sense.
It does make sense. I think I can add to that in that it's not that knowledge for the sake of knowledge to me is utterly useless. My conclusion is, what do I do with it? So what? What's the purpose behind it, right? Because what bhakti or what love brings is like the user, the experience. Knowledge is dry. Like, what am I going to do with all this knowledge that's there? Until I experience whatever it is, whatever it means, I got to experience it. And so in my experience, as I was saying in this morning's reflection, Marathi reflection, that real bhakti, so chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga, for example, is called Gyanottar Bhakti, post-Gyan. Real bhakti is post-Gyan. You've transcended Gyan. You said, okay, whatever, got it. So what? The big deal. So what is the big deal about all this Gyan? Oh, there's only one. Everything is God. So what? Right? Like, we understood. What do I do with it? What you do with it is where the bhakti started. You love. It sounds like a cliche. I recognize it, but that's where truly Gyanottar is when bhakti begins, and that necessitates Dvaita again. Right? You have to distance. Like, you cannot love yourself, just like saying, I am it and I love me. It just doesn't feel fulfilling. It doesn't feel real. And so it's an interesting song and dance, again, which requires two. Either one.
Two that are one.
Yeah.
But what you mentioned about women, right? And Sanjeev shared in one of the lectures that a lady who talked about Jainism, and you want to share? I think
it was one of the lectures, by professor. Jainism is held kind of in high regards in philosophy, because there is a lot of depth to their philosophy. But then this lecture she said we need to come to terms with it, that Jainism has an issue.
Like that one model of Jainism.
Yeah, there's Digambara and there's Svetambara.
Mm-hmm.
So in Digambara, the ultimate, as you go higher and higher, the highest level is where you give up clothes as well. But that is only available to males. And it's that, and that level allows you to reach liberation.
Moksha,
So,
which only male can.
from the Digambara point of view, that is not available to females. And she said, we talk about Jainism a lot, but we need to come to terms with the fact that, there is an issue here.
Yeah.
Females are not allowed that. And she said, yes, in Svetambara, theoretically they're allowed, but, there's practically there are not that many females in the top level, but at least theoretically they do allow.
Yeah.
So she just said, I don't have a solution, and she's not even, she wasn't even knocking at Jainism. She just said, this is something that needs to be brought up.
Yeah, the Sanatan Dharma, which is the source of Hinduism, which is the source of Jainism, right? Jainism is a watered down version of Hinduism, which is a watered down version of Sanatan Dharma, as is Buddhism, watered down version of Hinduism. So Buddha, Jain, and Sikh, for sure, actually these three come from Hinduism, which comes from all three, or the original proponents were Hindus when they started Jainism or Buddhism. Siddhartha Gautama was a Hindu, for example. Guru Nanak was a Hindu. So the challenge that I have, this is a distraction, so we'll just stop and we'll get back to Gita, is Sanatana Dharma says, even your body is a shell, is like a piece of cloth. And so to put on another cloth and fight at that level, Digambar or Shwetambar, whether Shwetambar is only wearing white, the whole everything is clean. Digambar is accepting the directions, right? Dik as my clothes. I don't need any clothes. Everywhere, wherever I go, I have clothes on me. So whether Digambar, you're stuck not just in the body, actually the outer than the body, about whether it's white or orange or black or clothes or no clothes. Not only do you have to not worry about the color or clothes or not, actually you have to not even worry about you have body or not. First of all, that you are clothing with white or whatever, non-white. And so move past that, the body and whatever you're clothing with the body. And so it's the highest really is the Sanatan wear. Now, I honor and respect, and I absolutely hold space, and I truly, sincerely honor and respect Jainism, also because there are certain passages to it that are very, honorable, right, and hard for anyone else to. But I also don't want to, personally for me, only one man's opinion, don't want to be stuck in which color clothes or not. I want to get past even the body. So is where I'll set my comments to that, is where my religion has taken me. And it's not Hinduism, to be clear. That it's not Hinduism. Hinduism had me stuck in a rut of the rituals, which was the problem to solve, which Jainism was created and Buddhism was created and Sikhism. I found myself in the same rut. It was the mother of all, Sanatana, that rescued me, right? That just says that actually does not discard anyone, that it's the opposite. It has place for everyone. It's the opposite. Like a mother has place for the black child and the white child and the short child. They're all her children. It feeds them equally and loves them equally. Sanatana has space for all of those religions as well, including Islam and all that. So I think in honoring our Gita, let's do a few shloks. I think we will be able to wrap it up in time, because there is a topic where we left off in the 17th chapter. There's a set of four shloks that are next verses that I will read first in Hindi and then we'll go over in English as well. And it pertains to food. That, remember we were talking about the 17th chapter, Shraddha Traya Vibhag Yoga. 3 kinds of faith. Shraddha is right, like what do you believe in? What a propensity, if you want to call it that, inclination. What do we tend to gravitate towards? Typically, there is a mass of people that gravitate towards sattvikta, purity, cleanliness, goodness. Speaking of Jainism, right? That those masses gravitate towards that. Ahimsa, don't want to hurt anyone. Therefore, I'll compromise whatever I have to compromise, but I will not eat certain kinds of foods that are buried underground. This, that, like their principles are. There is a certain mass of people that are just so willy-nilly, so don't care, to the point that almost want to do the opposite of what these people are saying. That's a tamasic. And then there's a certain mass of people, rajasic, that they say, I don't care about this or that. I want mine to grow. Whatever I like, whatever benefits me, whatever grows mine is what I want. I'll take this and that. I'll eat veg and I'll eat non-veg. I will drink chai and I'll also drink alcohol. And so this isn't about good or bad. It's all about me. That's a certain mass of people. That's a rajasic. And so it's a very intelligently categorized, broadly described. And that's the chapter that we're in. Those are the 3 kinds of faith. And you can follow the patterns in this chapter. Krishna says, you can see the patterns of how they talk, how they dress, even what they prefer to eat, how they eat, how they study. In this chapter, he talks about what kind of company do they keep, where do their minds reside. So we were in that chapter a couple of months ago and we'd left off and we'd stopped short of food approaching. And so we'll pick that up. So in the next 4 verses, he addresses those. So I'm going to read that and then we'll go over it. Maybe I'll skip the Sanskrit and for time sake and read in Hindi, and we'll go over. भोजन भी सबको अपनी अपनी प्रकृति के अनुसार 3 प्रकार का प्रिय होता है, और वैसे ही यज्ञ, तप, दान भी 3 प्रकार के होते हैं। उनके इस पृथक पृथक भेद को तू मुझसे सुन. So just like I was saying, whatever people eat, whatever people give, even who do you give to? These masses will give to a certain group of people. These masses will support MAGA rallies or extremist group. Therefore, millions, they'll spend more money, they'll do more in charity. And so by one standard, who is giving more? You might say that the NRA, as a nonprofit that it calls itself, is more magnanimous and generous of heart. They're spending billions of, but what do you do with it? Is where, like, what is the intention behind it? What's driving it is what Krishna, look at how the intelligent thought, the thoughtfulness behind it 5,000 years ago. It wasn't who is giving more, it's what's the intention. So using those standards, he would not say the NRA is superior. Because what ultimately the outcome of it is destruction or suppression or superiority. What is wrong with it? Not the destruction of the superiority, but the division, the divisive nature. But what is wrong with divisive nature? Well, it's spreading ignorance. It's making you think that you're separate, you're different, you're disconnected, and that's not it. If the opposite is true, you're actually one and you're connected and you're united. NRA does not help me get to the unified vision. It helps me get to the divisive vision, right? And therefore, that is why it was wrong. Not because they picked up their rifle. Well, Krishna said, you must pick up your bow and arrow, right? And you must fight. So he was in a way supporting the NRA, what he would say. But the reason, rationale was very different. Yeah, right. So we don't want to be too jaded and too caught up in just dogmatic beliefs. And so that using that as an example of Dan, for example, he says, stop. What do you work hard towards? I'm working very hard for this cause or that cause, or for my own personal growth or development, or for my empire to be grown, right? For my own business to be grown, or for my community's betterment, for my kids. So there are different reasons why people work hard. That's stuff. Yajna, you're generating value, you're creating value. For what reason? For what purpose? They're all, he says, fall into these 3 categories of the purity of intention, the spectrum of the purity and the degradation of the intentionality behind it, which is what makes the difference at the end of the day. And he says, to the minutest level of detail of what do you eat on a daily basis, even. It's not just the bombastic, big ideas that I just shared. What do you give and who do you give to and what do you work for? Even on a daily basis, what do you eat? What do you prefer to eat? Even to the minutest, he'll just say in a moment that how much do you cook? Do you let it burn? How much salt do you put in it? How much lemon do you need? How spicy is it? How oily is it? How only one kind of food do you eat? This is all from the Gita in the next chapter. Or how much do you diverse, like how your palate is actually balanced or not, regulated diet or not. To that micro level of detail are these forces of nature, he's saying, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. They're so infused, so embedded in it that there's no escape from the saying if you get caught up in it. So the only way to do it, as he suggests at the beginning of the 15th chapter, is to just completely ignore and walk past it and realize your identity, that I'm separate from this also, right? So that's where today, now we're putting the microscope and the fine lens on the food. So he says in this, Rasya snigdha stira hridya ahara satvika priya ayu sattva balarogyam sukha priti vivardhana. What does that mean in Hindi? Ayu, in like life, duration, longevity, life. Buddhi, bal, nourishment, arogya, health, sukh और प्रीति को बढ़ाने वाले रस युक्त, so food stuff that can flow, चिकने that are smooth, स्थिर रहने वाले solid, और स्वभाव से ही मन को आह्लाद देने वाले, the healing, nourishing food. ऐसे आहार अर्थात भोजन के पदार्थ सात्विक साधकों को प्रिय होते हैं, right? And so I'll go with this, but you are all the expert, not me in this topic. So I had one you to decode and unpack this. Those on this side that I described, the sattvic, they tend to balance their palate. They have some fluids, some solid, some that are smooth, but generally all of those are naturally nourishing, feeling good, healing, calming down, soothing, not agitating, not provocative kinds of food stuff, right? So the next category that he describes is Katvamalamba Lavana Ati Ushna Tikshna Ruksha Vidahina Ahara Rajasa Siesta Dukha Shokama Amaya Prada Kadve, like really too bitter, khatte, very sour, Lavana Yukta, very salty, or more than very, I'm adding, he's not added that adverb there. So kadve is bitter, khatte is sour, lavana yukta is salty. So the idea is more than needed. Bahut garam, so there is ati tikshna, ati ruksha, too hot in both sense. Hot like heat, and also tikha like spicy, ruke very dry, daha karak, hurtful to the gums or to the teeth, or dukha chinta rogon ko, those that naturally cause hurt. उत्पन्न करने वाले आहार अर्थात भोजन करने के पदार्थ राजस साधकों को प्रिय होते हैं. Just like everything is like on a high rung. Their palate has become like sort of blunt. I need more, hotter, spicier, right, saltier, those kinds of foods, like the achars, for example. Like for Khana would take this achar, that achar, that achar, and it just keeps growing. And the rajasic food is becomes like that. The rajasic vyakti, the person is, this much is not, $1 million is not enough. I need 10 million is not enough. I need 1 billion is not enough. I need 2 billion is not enough. One company is not enough. I need to grow. In one country is not enough. My house, one car is not enough. My children are good. No, their children are everything. Exponential growth alone will satiate them. And the irony is that's unsatiable, right? And so even the palate becomes like that. Rajasic low, okay, this different. This is different recipe, different ingredient, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, constantly more and different. Rajasic, classic signs are more and different. I want more. I want different, always running around, right? That's Rajasic. And so it shows up even at the micro level in the foods that are favorite to them. And then the third kind, jo bhojan adhapaka, half-baked, maybe not, careless, negligent, ignorantly, whatever, disregarding, rasa rahit. And it's not juicy, it's not savory, in other words. Ras is savor, right? Unsavory, distasteful, durgandhayuk, stinking, basi. Basi would be old, like dated, right? Outdated. Uchishta, juta muta, like whatever, I don't care who has eaten it. I like it, I want it. This slice of pizza half eaten, I'll eat it. I don't care. Like a dog would eat a half, disregarding completely. Because the dog's not worried about what's this doing to me, where this is taking me. This food I become 72 hours later, who I identify with myself as the body and the thoughts that it generates, and the sharpness or the bluntness of my intellect is determined by what I'm eating now. I don't care, it doesn't matter. I'm hungry, I want to eat it. That's what a dog would do, a pig would do, and so a man would do it, and that person would fall in the category of this third kind, which is the tamasic. जो अपवित्र है वह भोजन तामस पुरुषों को प्रिय, साधकों को प्रिय. अपवित्र, impure, unhygienic, unsanitary, negligently cooked, disregarded, careless, thoughtless, right, is of that kind, because they have waited. Tamasic people are dormant. Tamasic people will avoid working at any cost. They'll just sit there like what, and then suddenly they get hungry. Suddenly rush to the refrigerator. Suddenly there's this cold whatever, doesn't matter, I'm hungry, I'll eat it. Or just someone has left over. And it shows in everything. At work, they'll avoid work. And then suddenly something is due and they'll just hodgepodge whatever concocted here, 1 2 ka 4, 4 2 ka 1. Here it is. Like, no, that's unacceptable. Right? Go back, do a thorough job, study properly, do it well. And the Sattviks are like constantly at it, like going at it iterations, not aggressively, not like a madman, but in a balanced way, but focused on doing a good job. And the Rajasic are doing an extraordinary job, fully driven by when do I get my next promotion? I'm gonna prove this. I am superior to you, Mr. Boss. I should be your boss. You know nothing. You have whatever you have because I give this to you. Or else, if not, then I would have nothing to do with it. I'm moving on to the next job, to the next company, to the next boss, to the next field, this, that. And so those are the characteristics that shows up in food preferences and the cooking habits and the kitchen, the way it is set up and all of it. So let me stop here. This is where my SME ends and yours begin. So what do you think, Falguni Behan? How do you connect with what we just heard? And this was the last verse of today's session. After this conversation, we'll stop today's session. What do you think?
I have been in and out because there's some work going on in the house. But from what you said, I got into the part where you were talking about, ki zyada katu, zyada khata nahi khana chahiye. So I was just thinking that, yes, it makes, like I find like,